Hello and welcome to the Winners Never Quit podcast. Start your week the right way with a laugh and a dose of motivation. Listen to the stories of our guests. Learn from their experiences and how they built a winner's mindset. Hosted by myself, Jack Jarvis. And if you could like, follow or subscribe to the podcast, I would really appreciate it. Today, I am joined by Brian Wood. Woody served 17 years in the British Army, completing 5 operational tours and was awarded the Military Cross for the actions at the Battle of Danny Boy. This battle was also the subject of the Al-Swedi inquiry, which subsequently led to Phil Shiner being struck off from the Solicitor's Register for falsifying claims that British soldiers had tortured and murdered Iraqi prisoners of war. Since leaving the army, he has started a business, Keep Attacking, and has raised over £250,000 for Walking with the Wounded, completing 25 marathons in 25 days, and in 2022 he completed a further 35 marathons in 35 days. He has also cycled across America. Woody's book, Double Cross, was a Sunday Times bestseller and inspired the BBC drama Danny Boy. Woody joins me now. Woody, how are you doing, mate? Thank you so much for coming on.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Mate, anytime. So we start every podcast the same, buddy. How do you define winning in your life?
Define winning is, for me, achieving your goals. I think everyone should set goals. Life is a journey, and it can be pretty boring if you don't set yourself goals, whether that's work-related or sports-related. It could be anything. But winning is achieving. And, that's a thing of beauty.
No, 100%. We're going to do it a little bit differently today because I want to tell the listeners how we met. So I slid into your DMs, and you were... What marathon were you on at the time? You were...
I must have been 5 or 6.
5 or 6. No, I think
Or
you were a
was it
little bit...
later?
Yeah, I think you were a
Was it
little bit
later?
deeper than that. So I slid into Brian's DMs. Now, I'd watched his Ultimate Sacrifice Challenge in 2021. Loved it. Was inspired, but for whatever reason, I think I was away. Couldn't partake. I offered to come and run a marathon with him, and he jumped to the opportunity. Said, "Yep, please come down." Now there was me, 28, fit, just completed the Atacama crossing, so I fancied myself a bit of a runner, and I thought, yeah, there's no way this old boy is going to outrun me when he's halfway through his challenge, and he absolutely thrashed me for 3.5 hours round the Hampshire countryside, and that was one of the quickest marathons so far that you've done that challenge, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it was 3:28.
Yeah, it was rapid. I couldn't believe it. But that's how we met, and I've been bending his arm to come on the pod ever since. And what I want to know, mate, is how did you have the mental fortitude to not just complete those marathons on the second innings, but the mental fortitude to push yourself as hard as you did?
I think challenge within a challenge is a big thing for me. I'll always push myself when I set myself a goal. And it was really important for me not to just cruise. I wanted to... My first one, I ran 25 marathons in 25 days in 2021. And I knew I could do it. I told myself and reminded myself the reasons for the challenge. But more importantly, that I could do it and I can complete it. And I can go 25 days consecutive running 26.2 miles. Second time around, I knew I could go again, but I really wanted to go at the best pace that I possibly could. And I think I'd only done 6 over 4 hours, and 4 of them were in the Falklands because I flew out to the Falklands and ran 4 days out there. But the wind and the elevation was on another level, and I couldn't get under 4 hours, which I was gutted, but 4:20, I think it's 4:25, and I started at Mount Pleasant, and then I would finish at Stanley every day, and it was like there's those of you who have been out to the Falklands will know there's only one road, and there's not one tree. The hills are ridiculous steep, and the wind was just another level. And I knew I could do it. I'd done it already in 2021. I could do it again, and I just pushed myself, and I started off at the London Marathon, was my first marathon, second time around, and I did that in 3 hours. That was my quickest one. I think I've done it in 3 hours 26.
It's a great race, isn't it?
Oh, it was the best thing I've ever done. Honestly, just the whole day, the environment, reading people's T-shirts was emotional but really inspiring at the same time, because everyone's got their own reasons in life to do something, and reading their reasons why was humbling. And yeah, what an experience. Just the crowds. I've never experienced anything like it, but it was crazy because I went from hundreds of thousands of people shouting Woody to the second day running on my own. Like, that is mind games. So going from one electric event, which had me on cloud 9, to then being on my own, running around the Hampshire countryside with no one else other than my mind telling me to keep punching, to keep going. And yeah, I'm just quite strong-minded like that.
How important is that motivation from inside, that intrinsic motivation, compared to that external motivation that you had on the London Marathon? Where does that come from?
I think motivation will always come and go. Something will motivate you, and it will last a period of time. It's discipline, which is if you've got discipline and you've got continuity, you're in a good lane. So I knew I had to be disciplined just to show up every day and attack each mile with a purpose. And some of the things on the way would motivate me. You coming along with me and running with me motivated me because it helped me. On your own, it's tough.
Yeah.
But you have to suppress the inner chimp as well when it's telling you to slow down. Just walk. No one's with you. It's okay to walk. Well, actually, yeah, it is. It's bad to walk. I need to get this done. And so a lot of it was in my head, you know, and a few little conversations that, yeah, were tough, but I would always manage to suppress them. And that's just about sheer belief. I had sheer belief. Not only could I do it, but I could do it at really respectable times because I believed in my own ability. And I would never, ever stand for comfort. I was always uncomfortable. When you come running with me, I wanted to make sure that I put you in an uncomfortable situation. 28 years old.
And you did.
Not. No, I know, because I heard you.
Yeah.
You know, and I would say, we've got to push. We've got to push.
Do you remember the sprint we did at the end?
Yeah. Yeah, and I beat you.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that bit.
But it's really important to try and, for me anyway, to push yourself in any discipline that you're doing. And for me, it was a longevity, because 35 marathons in 35 days is a beast. But I just knew I could do it. And yeah, I wanted respectable times. And when I done my first one, my dad messaged me saying, "What are you doing? Like, you got 34 more." And I was like, "Yeah, I've got one more." That's another thing that I did. I broke it down and took 1 day and 1 mile at a time. So Dad said 34. I would never look at it like that because it would overwhelm me. So for me, I just focused on that day and that mile and just tick each mile off. Remember each name. Wallop, straight the way through. Day 2 was day 2, mile 1. And that's all I concentrated on. I'd never ever looked at the bigger picture, because when people would talk about the bigger picture, I switched the conversation straight away. Today, the day that I wanted to talk about, wasn't the bigger picture, because it just seemed too much when you're talking about 35 marathons when people train for 6 months to run one. So I just broke it right down and just took each day as it came.
That's so important. We talk about it a lot on the pod. These big goals, and it was the same when I was doing the row. I wouldn't worry about the next month or getting to the halfway point. I literally used to think about finishing a shift.
Yeah.
Just complete this next 4 hours, and then we've got a break. We can chill out. We can have a deep breath, and then we can go again. You know, if you look at something of this massive, gargantuan beast, you might never start, and I think that's half the problem with a lot of people. But I want to know, where did the idea for this come from? Take me back to 2021.
I'm just petrified that, and I'm sure it won't happen, but I'm scared that we will forget to remember those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for what we have today, but also remember my generation of war fighters as well, being in Iraq and Afghanistan, because I've been out there and I've seen the realities of war, the brutality of war, and I've laid to rest 2 fellow soldiers myself. I laid them into the ground, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I'm petrified that we will forget. So I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do it unique, but really personalise it also. And I was just thinking, do you know what? I'm going to have a look how many soldiers, sailors, airmen and women we lost. And I'm going to represent them. And went away, done my due diligence, spoke to the MOD, the government, made sure I had all the correct information, and started to create a list. And it was hard, creating that list, because I went through all of their names, date of births, regiment, and the cause of death. So it was tough, but I got all the information down. 635 we lost in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I pledged to run a mile for each serviceman and women, and I'll go no less than 26 miles a day, and then I've done the 0.2 for the Queen. So 26 names were on the back of my t-shirt every day. I announced it on Instagram, and it then got a lot of traction, and then that was it. The family's all over me. So I don't talk about the added pressure, because I just needed to hide that, if I'm honest. But there was a lot of added pressure, because people were waiting to see their loved ones. Because every morning I took a picture of my t-shirt. On the back of it had the names, and so many messages from cousins, from mums, dads, sisters, brothers, you name it. I had messages from them, and that would motivate me, but also it put pressure on me as well, a little bit, because I knew there was people waiting, because I had the messages saying I'm waiting for my husband's name to appear on one of your t-shirts, and I'm like, here we go again, let's go. This is why I'm doing it. And like I said, it was a double-edged sword, because it helped me get out of bed when I was in rag, but also I had a pressure, because if something went wrong, I don't think I would be able to forgive myself, because I would have failed, and I can't fail.
Right. We can talk about the video. It's out on YouTube now and on your website.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And there's a clip in there where you are literally sliding on your arse down the stairs in the hours of darkness.
Yeah.
So
Achilles.
Yeah. What was that the toughest day when you had those Achilles issues?
My Achilles caused me problems. They're just because of the site. They were just swollen so much, and every morning I had to bum shuffle down the stairs, then start walking around the kitchen to ease them off. And the pain, I felt that they were going to rupture in the mornings, because they were so stiff. But once I started to walk around and loosen off, then they started to react.
They started to work.
And they started to work. And it was just getting into that routine of knowing that I'm going to be sore and stiff. I got that. I knew that was going to happen. But the Achilles was something that I didn't anticipate. But they just needed to be worked on. And I never forget one of the marathons that I was doing. I had to pull over. I was in Portsmouth, actually. I had to pull over on the side of a bridge. And one of the lads had to cycle to the pub and grab masses of bags of ice. I took my trainers off, and I had my Achilles on the ice, because they were just so fat. And I was thinking, I just need to try and get them down a little bit and then keep going. And
can you remember what day that was?
Nah, because it was my first one.
Oh.
But it was probably like 11.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't 11, because that's Armistice Day. It was one of the, I think it was like maybe the 5th or 6th one. But, oh, mate.
So a long way to go.
Long way to go. But like I said, it was a long day to go.
Yeah.
Because I never looked at the end state. I would always look at that day. So it was a long day. and I just needed to get through that day. So it was important for me to bring the Achilles down. I didn't even think about how am I going to go tomorrow, because I just wanted to know how I'm going to
finish today.
Today, yeah, the mile. That's what's really important. And even some of the arduous courses that I've been on, and we've both done the same course down at Lympstone with our commando course. I was a big one for that as well. I just took each day as it came. You know, it's really important for me to do that. And I'm just about to go to the Sahara and do the toughest foot race in the world, and I'll do the same there. I'll just go get day one done, sort myself out, and then we concentrate on day two, because it's an overwhelming factor otherwise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not going to lie, it was hard work.
We talk about breaking goals down. You know, when you were on the All Arms Commando course, would you see lads rap because they'd maybe had a bad day, and then they're thinking about test week when they're still maybe on week 5, so they've got another 4 weeks to go, whatever, and they fail themselves and they just voluntary withdraw, they just rap when they build it up in their head?
Yeah.
I saw that a lot. I don't know if you must have seen the same.
Yeah, I mean, people will always build something up bigger than what it should be. I was a little bit different on my All Arms. I went down there as a platoon sergeant because I was going back down to instruct as a colour sergeant. But for credibility, I had to go and do the commando course, because I could have went there with my normal regimental headdress.
Yeah.
But I was just about to teach and instruct for 2 years on their senior command course. So I thought I've got to go down there and at least have a little bit of credibility by doing the course. And there was so many young lads coming through, and I was a lot more experienced and older. So I knew how to deal with my inner thoughts and what I needed to achieve. And I would just see so many young lads psyching themselves out, and I'd be like, just relax. They'd be like pacing up, like nervous energy. They're expending it all over the place. And I was like, just chill. Just think about the bottom field. Don't worry about everything else that's going to happen down the way. Just think about the bottom field. It's like, that's what we're on. That's a program that we're on now. Think about now. Yeah, but I'm not fit enough to pass week 5 ropes. Yeah, but we're on week 2.
Yeah.
Just relax. It's all good. Just think about now. I tell you now, I struggled on the ropes. Was my Achilles heel. It was.
We spoke about this on the run, didn't we?
Yeah. But I knew what I needed to do to get up them ropes, and for me, it was remedial. I wasn't good enough on the ropes. I knew that, but I wasn't too proud to just try and swag it, because I knew if I tried that, I would fail. So it was down to me to do something about my struggles getting up them ropes. And I got up at 5 in the morning, regardless of what we were on. If we were in camp, I was up at 5 in the morning, and we had some hard fizz sessions, like you know.
Yeah.
But I was already doing an hour hard fizz session, trying to get the technique and trying to get up these ropes. And there was a PTI, Royal Marines PTI there, Fergie, who was a game changer for me, because he started me at real basics, because I never had a pre-course.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit different for me, because I was infantry, PWRR, who don't really have anyone go on commando courses.
I'll explain for anyone who doesn't understand.
Yeah.
So, being in the engineers, there is an engineer commando unit. That unit will run a beat up. The same for the artillery, but obviously Woody being an infantier, there is no need for anyone in the PWRR to go and do the All Arms Commando course unless they're in your position and they're getting posted to Lympstone. So you didn't have that. And in our in the commando unit, we have a holding troop, so we're practicing ropes all the time. So we've done it over and over again before we even get to Lympstone. Yeah. You were going in with no experience.
I just went in with no experience.
And it's a totally different way of climbing a rope. The commandos teach you the better way. It's more efficient than the way the army teaches you. So you have to unlearn something and then relearn it, which is typically harder than going in as a beginner.
Yeah, and I knew what I needed to do. So each morning I'll go down and I started to get it, you know. And then week 5 came, which is bottom field pass out, and it was raining. So a lot of people were psyching themselves out, but I had to get away from I can't be around negativity. I have to get myself away, because it was like I don't know if I can do it because of the rain. It's extra weight, you know. And I'm like around there thinking, I'm not the greatest on the ropes. I've absolutely busted a gut to do extra work to get up to the ropes. I don't want to hear this rain, slippy, added weight, added pressure. So I took myself into the drying room just to kind of get away from all of the chat, sort of focused and thought, right, one shift at a time. Because I always told you I break shit down one shift at a time and we'll get to the top. And it was like, get ready, right, to the top, climb. And what did I do? One shift at a time. Did I get to the top? With ease. Got to the top. And then I knew it was done. I was past. Because everything else, to be honest, it was all right. It was hard, but it didn't really test me to my massives of capability and to the extremities. The ropes did. Once I passed the ropes, I knew I was good to go.
Yeah. Because it is an infantry course, so you would have done junior and senior backing at that point.
Yeah, I've done juniors and seniors, and I kept myself ticking over. I would always look after myself. So going down, once them Achilles heels was out the way, them ropes, I was good to go.
Good to go.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone's watched Limitless and watched Chris Hemsworth climb that rope, right? It's ours is a 30-foot rope with 21 pounds and a weapon system.
Yeah.
You know, he's doing it clean fatigue, all right? It's challenging, isn't it? Yeah. It's rats.
Yeah, it's hard work. It is very hard work. And I was pleased to get them out the way. And, great course. Great 2 years I spent down there with the Royal Marines. And probably 2 years of my military career, if I'm honest. And, got amongst it. But I digress. I mean, I don't even know where I was before. Talk about with the marathons, then to go on to all arms. I think it was like just taking each day
as it comes,
evolution as it comes, and don't overwhelming you with the whole challenge complete.
Going back to the marathons, you said you're doing the MDS. You've got a bit of experience running. I would say you know more than most. What lessons have you taken from the Ultimate Sacrifices challenges and now you're applying to the MDS? And any advice you'd give to people doing a multi-stage ultra for the first time?
I don't know, because I'm not the governor. Honestly, I'm not an oracle. I'm not even a runner, believe it or not.
You're full of shit.
No, I just set myself. Honestly, I set myself goals, and I'll go and run. I don't compete.
I know you don't compete.
To be honest, I run for my mental health.
Yeah,
it keeps me sane. Running does. I don't compete. I don't run professionally. I'm not a sponsored runner or anything like that. I just set a challenge. I want to raise money and give something back because I feel like I've got a responsibility to do that for those who have served, and I just get amongst it. So what I would take away is I know I can do it. I know I can complete the MDS. However, that's not good enough. I want to get in the top 100.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get in the top 100. If I achieve it, then I'll be really pleased with myself. But if I complete it, it's still a massive, because only 47% of people complete it. So if I complete it, it's a tick in the box. But I've always said about a challenge within a challenge, I want to try and get in the top 100. But I'm up against them mad Moroccans who don't even.
I've heard stories.
They just run in like barefoot and that, and I was like, leave it out. So I'll be in their ear.
So I've heard stories. I'm not sure how true it is, but those guys will literally, after they've had their initial kit inspection, will pretty much bin the large majority of their food.
Yeah.
And they are running with effectively a carrier bag.
A gel.
Yeah, a gel a day, and that is all they're doing. I know what you mean, though. You're not a professional runner as such, because when we finished our marathon, no post-race protein shake or anything like that. We actually shared a pint of Guinness, didn't we? Yeah.
But that's what it's all about.
No,
you know?
100%.
I don't want to kid myself on or kid other people that I'm some sort of Spartan that can just run. No, I run. It hurts. I hate it, running it, and it's so much time on the legs. But I get it done because when I set a challenge, I have to complete it. There's nothing that can stand in the way of that. So it's really important for me just to get after stuff. If I set something up and I commit to something, it has to be done, and I'll find a way. And you've got to have that tenacity. You've got to have that discipline and that courage to just, if it doesn't go the way you plan, figure it out. Don't play victim. Don't be like, oh, this happened, that happened. Okay, something shit has happened, but is there a way around it? Do I need to get on the bike? For me, that wasn't even an option. But worst case, I would have figured a way out to complete it, because it's so important not to just wrap and give up. It is not in the vocabulary. It's we've got to go after it somehow. And that's another thing that I'll take to the MDS with me is my mental resolve. I rely on it a lot because I'm stubborn. I can take my mind to some hideous places because I've been to some fucking brutal places in the past, and it's affected me in the past. But I've grown from that. But I know it feels like to be in some dark, demanding places within the headspace. And you ain't gonna get no more demand than being allegations of murder. You know, up against, 1 minute being a decorated soldier to murder, the press being out your house, outside your parents' house, asking your brother for a quote on me because he's serving in one Scots. That's pressure. That's dark times on how do I deal with all of this. So I use that when I'm going through the most demanding stuff, because you can't get near me now because I've been through the ringer with what I'd seen on operations, closing and destroying enemy close quarter fighting, recovering their bodies, loading their bodies up into the vehicles, putting bodies in plastic bags. I was also blown up, but very fortunate to maintain my limbs. On my second tour of Iraq, one of the lads put a light machine gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. I was third person onto that scene and seeing stuff that only you could watch in films. I had pulled Johnson Bahari out of the vehicle, who went on to be awarded the Victoria Cross, and seen the carnage and chaos that hit. So I have been in a really tough place when I was younger, trying to figure all of this out, where it fits in my head. And for a lot of the years, I just tried to self-help and get on with it, but it doesn't work like that. And it took me until I went to Lympstone to go and start some of my therapy with it, because there was too much legacy trauma and too much pressure with this Al Tweedy inquiry to try and figure it out on my own. It just wasn't workable. So I had the courage to go and speak to someone at Lympstone and then start my journey. But I was digressing then. So I can also take with me the fog of war and the toolkit that I have created to get me out of that fog, even though it's such an emotional roller coaster. But I know what I feel like when I feel like I haven't got anything or don't know where to turn. And there were some hard places to be in, but I've managed to get out of it somehow, and now I'm in the best mindset I've ever been in, and that's probably helped my performance on these endurance, because I'm okay in my own skin now. I'm good to be Woody, where before I didn't know what was going on.
Mate, I'm a big believer in Iron Forge design, and you have certainly been mentally forged in some of the toughest, and what you've been through, what you touched on there, mate. So yeah, I cannot fault your laser focus at all, mate. It's very impressive. Something you said there that I do want to touch on is, you say you run for your mental health. How important, maybe you could relay this, someone that struggles, maybe someone that's struggling with mental health, how important is physical exertion and pushing yourself physically to help you combat that, to help you cope with that, as someone that sort of uses that technique?
Yeah, it's my medicine. I've cried lots, and I'm not ashamed to speak about it. I've cried because I didn't know what to do. I've cried because I didn't know where to turn. I've cried because I've needed to cry. But the best thing I had done was to go and get some therapy to understand all this chaos and why I was feeling different sort of ways throughout. And I tried a lot of different things. And the only thing what made me feel free, which stimulated me, which got the endorphins going where they needed to be going, set the conditions for my day, was running. I'm free as a bird, mate, when I'm running. Free as an absolute bird. And I plan. I put things into phases on how I'm going to create, how I'm going to execute whatever I'm creating. And how I'm going to grow as a person and the business. All that's in my running. It is my time. It's like we're all so busy, and it's the only time that I have that I'm accountable for. I'm involved in time, and it's my time, and it's my medicine. I can't even explain it. I've said to many, like when I was speaking with the doctor, and I said it's just fortunately I don't need to take potions and pills. My potions and pills is the fresh air. It's out, and it's down the country lanes, and it's just worked wonders for me because it has such a good effect. I get back and I feel good. I feel like I've achieved something, and it makes me smile. And I hate it as well. Hate running. I'm hanging out. Hate it, but the way it makes me feel, you can't buy shit like that. It is awesome.
And also as well, the joy, but when you do these challenges, mate, the community you have around you, that must feel so special. The amount of people that want to be there and support you. Like, was it your mate Danny that was with us when we did our marathon? Wayne, and he was on top form all day, and you must draw a lot of inspiration from that.
I'm very fortunate to have some good people around me. You know, I do thank them, you know, in their own kind of unique way, and how they've helped me and supported me, and taking days off work to be involved in my marathon, and whether it's bringing food around my house to help Lucy, my wife, because she's cooking and trying to maintain the business while I've taken
35 days off.
Yeah, I've taken 35 days off, and when you take that off a busy business, it puts a lot of pressure on her. People just get together. I'm from a small village in Whitehill, Borden. The community's on another level, and they just come together when you most need them, and it's remarkable, really. I'm very fortunate to have good people around me, and fortunate.
Yeah, very fortunate, mate. Tell us about the book, Double Crossed.
Yeah.
Why did you want to write about your life? And having listened to it, and I've got a copy here as well, thank you very much, that you've given me. Why did you want to tell your story?
There was a lot of things that were said throughout the inquiry. There was a lot of things that were quickly swept under carpets that needed to be highlighted, and I wanted to let people read what it was like to serve this great nation in uniform, what the feeling is like to serve as a British soldier, to go over to foreign fields and fight hard, and the sacrifices that are made, and put pen to paper. And I'm a absolute solid infantry flipping thick fucking wildcat, mate. But I knew, you know, what shape and structure that the book needed to look like, and just started tapping away. It took me a while, like, to be fair. It took me about 1.5 years to write it. In crayon and a lot of rubbers.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Because you kept eating the crayons, of course.
Standard. Yeah. But do you know what? It was cathartic. There was some of the experiences that I'd gone through sort of crept back into my thought process, which I couldn't shift for a while as well, which was a bit annoying because I didn't like to feel the way I was feeling in certain situations, especially about when I write about the suicide. I hadn't really spoken about that for a long period of time. I just shut that off. But then writing about it, it brought it all back, and that was a tough gig to write about that in detail. But I bared with it, and I got the story down and put my biography out to the world, which is very nervous. Like, I'm writing about my life story.
Mate, I feel nervous releasing these podcasts, and I'm interviewing someone else.
Exactly.
So I can't even imagine how you felt.
And you bear all in it because you only get one shot.
Oh yeah, you fucking did.
I was very, very nervous, but when it was published, do you know what? I had my launch at the Shard as well, the 24th and 25th floor of the Shard, and all of my friends came in. We made a big night of it. Stayed up in London. It was unreal. Colonel Richard Kemp come in, done the speech for me, which was just incredible. And then it launched. And then the following day, I was told that it went on to the Sunday Times bestseller at number 3. And then I climbed to number 2. But Michelle Obama was number 1, and I was getting nowhere near her. So
that's just unfortunate, though, mate.
Nah,
and I'm sure your book's better, mate.
Nah, do you know what? I can take number 2 from her all day long. You know what a global icon she is. So I'm happy with that. But who would have thought? You know, even being able to achieving like an Amazon number 1 is unbelievable. But to get a Sunday Times bestseller there's only a small percentage are able to achieve that. So
it must be tiny, mate.
It's unreal. And then it was a book that inspired the BBC drama Danny Boy. That was my life story, going into a 90-minute drama, being on film set. You know, it's mapping the battlefield out, speaking to the actor who played me and the actress who played Lucy, and getting involved in all of that. It was surreal, so surreal. To be honest, I don't think I even qualified to have that done. But do you know what? Sometimes cool things like that happen, and you've got to take them all day long, for sure.
How do you deal with, I don't know if imposter syndrome, but do you feel sometimes like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
But like you said, you're from a small town in Hampshire.
Yeah, it's difficult because I didn't sign up for any of that.
No.
I signed up to serve my country, you know, and I tried to do that to the best of my ability. Things happen along the way. You have to react to certain things along your journey, and when an opportunity like to have your book published by Penguin Random House, a global publication, that's an opportunity you have to take because it's never going to come around again. And I took it. And then someone was after my life rights to option them for film, but only 2% of life rights and stories actually get greenlit and commissioned, and I managed to get that done. And I was thinking, how? I'm like Woody. It's mad.
Yeah.
And it is very, very strange. But I think everyone has an element of whatever it's called. What's it called?
I 100% have
Imposter
it.
syndrome.
When people come up to me and they're like, "Oh mate, how did you do? You know, rows across the Atlantic?" I'm like, "I just did it." Like,
yeah. I
just woke up every morning.
I get that, but I don't really dwell on that. I just like crack on for the next day. It's like that's done now. My achievements throughout the running, that was all yesterday. It's great that I've got the experience, and I can use that and put some of the stuff how I felt in a toolkit to help me move forward on my journey, which is really important because it's growth, isn't it? It's like we want to grow from some of the cool stuff that we've done, learn from some of the bad stuff, take away what got you through some of the hardships, but I can't afford like the Al Sweedy inquiry and my mental well-being back in the day get in my way for what I need to achieve and what I want to achieve moving forward. I accept it. It's happened. Can't dwell on it or play victim.
Yeah. Well, doing that's not going to change anything.
No, I can't have that define who I am. That's not even me. That's happened. Life is beautiful, but it's a demand, and every single person will find themselves tested to their extremes, or whether it's a death in their family, someone's got a medical condition which is just a shock to family or shock the individual. There'll be someone who wants to achieve so much, but they have to work hard for it. They've just got to figure a way and don't play victim. You've just got to try and figure it out because, yes, take your moment, acknowledge what you're going through, and then figure out and just attack.
Mate, and I'm not going to go too much into the book because obviously I want people to buy it. It's available, audiobook, Amazon and everywhere else, WH Smith's, Waterstones. Go and get yourself a copy. But one question I really want to ask you is obviously the Battle of Danny Boy and the subsequent Al Sweedy trial, and then Phil Shiner. What is your opinion on Phil Shiner? Now, to give a bit of a background, he's been struck off because he, like I said in the intro, falsifying claims. But how do you feel towards him now? Because you touch on it in the book, and I thought it was a very nice opinion.
No, I have. There's no point me putting a bayonet into him again and twisting it. Well, I've already highlighted in the book what he got wrong. I could have gone in on him. I could have absolutely gone in on him, but it's not who I am. He's made a mistake. I've highlighted what the mistake was. I've highlighted how he affected me and my family, punished us. He punished me for years, and he ended my career. You know, whether he takes that on board or not, it's irrelevant. He's got to live with his lies, his greed, and his values. I've got to live for my family and who I am and move on and grow. Because if I've got too much of an issue with him or a gripe and I don't want to forgive him or whatever, then that's going to hold me back.
100%.
It's done. You know, he's got to go to the pub, to the boozer. The British public are ruthless. Someone will see him and mention something to him and call him out. If not, he's got to live with his lies. He's been struck off from his profession that he loves so much. He's done. He can't practice again. So he's got to live with that. I've gone through some shit that his lies spun on us. I'm out of it now. I've highlighted what he'd done wrong and how he affected so many people. I've got to keep climbing.
Now, Woody, massively thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing with us. The book Double Crossed, I cannot recommend it enough. Guys, if you're listening, go and get yourself a copy or get yourself the audio book. But I've just got one final question for yourself, mate.
Yeah.
If you could give yourself one bit of advice as a young Brian Wood, what would it be?
As a young Brian Wood, it will be kind, get after life, take nothing for granted, and understand that you're not entitled to anything. You've got to grind it out and give back.
That's some awesome advice. Right, guys, that is the end of today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, please could you follow, like, and subscribe, as it really helps grow the pod. Thank you for listening. Mate, cheers, buddy.
No worries, man.
Awesome.
Pleasure.
I could have
Cheers,
spoke
mate.
to you for hours.